The Great Hall of the Galactic Union Council was larger than any building on Earth. Its high glass walls showed the stars outside. Hundreds of beings sat in rows, each one representing a different planet, a different people. The air was alive with the sound of voices. The council was in session. Captain Elias Ward sat near the center where the Human Alliance had been placed. Around him sat his team, advisors, diplomats, and military officers. They all looked tense. They had been sitting here for hours, listening to the same arguments they had heard for weeks. Elias kept his face still, but his thoughts were loud. They don't want peace, he thought. They want control. Elias was not a politician. He had served most of his life in the Human Defense Fleet. He had seen real conflict. He had seen colonies attacked. He had seen what happened when people stopped talking and started fighting. That was why he had agreed to lead the human delegation. He wanted to avoid war. He wanted peace. But peace had a price. And today, the price was too high. High Speaker Ralvek stood on the raised center platform. His long blue skin shimmered under the lights. His voice echoed through the hall. Once again, I remind the Human Alliance that unchecked growth threatens balance, Ralvek said. We offer guidance. We offer unity. We ask only for cooperation. Elias leaned forward slightly. His eyes narrowed. Guidance. Unity. Cooperation. Pretty words for control. Ralvek continued. The Council has voted. Human military expansion must stop. Human ships must remain within the borders we set. Human technology must be shared with the Union for the safety of all. Murmurs filled the hall. Some delegates nodded. Others looked uneasy. A few glanced toward the humans, waiting to see their reaction. Elias stood up. The hall slowly grew quiet. All eyes turned to him. He spoke calmly, but every word hit like stone. Let me be clear, Elias began. For weeks, we have sat here. We have listened. We have given you every chance to treat us as equals. He paused and looked at Ralvek. But this is not peace. This is not unity. You speak of balance, but your demands are chains. Ralvek raised a hand, trying to respond. Captain Ward, you misunderstand. No, Elias said firmly, cutting him off. We understand perfectly. You fear us. And because you fear us, you try to control us. More murmurs spread through the chamber. Ralvek's face tightened. Elias turned to face the rest of the council. He raised his voice so they could all hear. The Human Alliance will not accept this, he said. We reject your terms. We reject your limits. From this moment forward, we will no longer take part in these talks. Gasps filled the hall. Some delegates shouted. Others stood up in shock. Ralvek slammed his staff on the floor. You risk galactic peace, he shouted. Elias didn't flinch. He turned to his team. Stand up, he ordered. We're leaving. One by one, the humans stood. Their boots echoed loudly as they walked down the aisle. The shouting grew louder behind them. Humans will bring war upon us all. Ralvek yelled. You cannot walk away from the Union. Elias kept walking. He didn't look back. The great doors of the chamber slid open with a loud hiss. The humans walked through. The doors closed behind them, shutting out the noise. Silence filled the hallway outside. Elias stopped and turned to face his team. Maya Chun, his lead advisor, stepped forward. She looked worried. What happens now, Captain? Elias let out a long breath. His jaw was tight. Now, he said quietly, we prepare for the fight they just started. Across the stars, news of the human walkout spread fast. Council members rushed to emergency meetings. Ships moved to patrol the borders. Leaders whispered of blockades and threats. The galaxy held its breath. And in that moment, one thing was certain. Nothing would ever be the same again. The human command ship Resolute hung in the dark, silent space beyond the Zeta 9 system. From a distance, it looked like a simple battleship, but inside, it was far more. The Resolute served as the mobile command center for the Human Alliance. This was where Elias Ward and his team had come to plan their next move. Inside the main briefing room, the air felt heavier than before. The walls hummed softly with the power of the ship's engines. A large hollow table stood in the center, showing a glowing map of the council-controlled space. Elias stood at the edge of the table, arms crossed, staring at the map. His mind raced with thoughts of what had just happened on Zeta 9. They had walked out, yes, but walking away from words was easy. What came next would not be. Behind him, Maya Chun entered the room, followed by Admiral Juno Hayes, head of the Human Defense Fleet. Juno was older than Elias, with gray in her short hair and sharp lines on her face. She had seen more battles than most. Her expression was as serious as ever. "They're waiting for you, Captain," Juno said. Elias nodded without looking back. "Let them wait one more minute." Juno walked to his side. "You don't have one more minute," she said. "The Council's already pushing ships toward our borders. And Earth's leadership wants answers." Elias sighed and turned away from the hollow table. "Fine. Put them through." Maya pressed a button on the console. A large screen lit up on the wall. 4 faces appeared, leaders from Earth, Mars, and the outer colonies. These were the ones Elias answered to. Politicians, military heads, and representatives of billions of human lives. Captain Ward. One of them began, a woman from Earth's United Council. "You've started a storm. The entire galaxy is talking. What is your plan?" Elias kept his voice steady. "We stood up for our freedom. But I know the Council won't let this go. They're already preparing to push back." Another face, a colony leader from Mars, leaned forward. "Let them try," he said. "We've grown strong enough. Maybe it's time we stop talking and start showing them what we're capable of." The room grew quiet. Juno Hayes shifted uncomfortably but stayed silent. Elias shook his head. Starting a war would prove their fears right. "We walked away to stand on our own, not to attack." The Martian leader frowned. "If we do nothing, we look weak." Elias leaned in toward the screen. His voice dropped lower. "No, if we do nothing, we give them time to make the next move. We wait, we watch, and we prepare." The Earth leader spoke again. "Reports are coming in already. Human trade ships are being stopped at Council checkpoints. Blockades may have started. What do you say to that, Captain?" Elias's jaw tightened. This was the move he had feared. He turned to Juno. "Confirm the reports." Juno nodded. "We already have. Several trade routes are blocked. Some of our ships have been turned away. A few haven't reported back." Elias felt a cold knot form in his chest. "We warned them," Maya whispered. Elias looked back at the screen. "If they're testing us," he said, "we'll show them we're ready." The Earth leader raised an eyebrow. "What are you suggesting?" Elias stood straighter. His voice was firm. "We move our fleets to defend our borders. We send scouts to watch the Council's ships. And we send one last message, a warning." The Martian leader leaned back. "And if they ignore it?" Elias didn't blink. "Then we prepare for the worst." Silence filled the room again. Finally, the Earth leader gave a slow nod. "Do what you must, Captain. But know this. If war starts, all of humanity will stand behind you." The screen went dark. Juno let out a breath. "They're ready to fight." Elias turned back to the holomap. "I know." Maya stepped closer. "Do you think the Council really wants war?" Elias stared at the blinking lights showing the Council's fleet movements. "I think they fear us too much to stop themselves," he answered quietly. Juno crossed her arms. "And what will you do?" Elias looked out the large window toward the stars. "I'm going to give them one more chance to prove me wrong." 2 days later, Captain Elias Ward returned to Zeta 9 alone. He left his ship and his team behind. No security. No escort. Just him. It was a bold move, but Elias knew it was the only way. If he showed up with warships or soldiers, the Council would panic. He needed to show them he still believed peace was possible, even if they no longer did. A single diplomatic shuttle brought him back to the massive Council station. He walked through the long glass corridors, the same halls he had walked just days before. But this time it felt different. Colder. Quieter. Every alien he passed stared at him like he didn't belong. At the end of the hall, 2 guards stood outside the Council chamber doors. They were tall, insect-like creatures with long arms and black armor. One of them raised a hand. "You are not invited back, human," the guard hissed. Elias didn't stop walking. "Tell Ralvek I'm here. He'll see me." The guards exchanged looks. One of them tapped a communicator on its arm. After a moment, the door slid open with a low hum. "Enter," the guard said. Elias stepped inside. The chamber was empty now, silent and dark. Only one figure stood at the center, Ralvek. The High Speaker turned slowly to face him. His expression was unreadable. You are braver than I thought, Captain Ward, Ralvek said. Or perhaps more foolish. Elias walked down the steps toward him. You moved ships toward our borders, Elias said without greeting. You blocked our trade routes. Don't pretend you didn't. Ralvek smiled a cold, thin smile. Your people chose to walk away. Actions have consequences. Elias took another step closer. We left the talks, not the galaxy. You have no right to trap our people, to threaten our ships. Ralvek's smile faded. You are a danger to every world in this union, Ralvek said quietly. We have watched your kind grow stronger, faster than any before you. You build weapons. You expand without care. You refuse to share what you learn. You act as if you stand above the rest of us. Elias felt his fists clench. He forced himself to stay calm. We build to survive, Elias replied. We expand because we must. We refuse to share our technology because we earned it. We never asked to stand above anyone. We asked to stand as equals. Ralvek's eyes narrowed. And yet you refuse our terms. Elias took a deep breath. We refuse your chains. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Ralvek's voice dropped lower, almost like a whisper. Do you think you can walk away from us and stay safe? The Council does not need your agreement to act. We can crush your supply lines. We can lock you in. And when you break, you will come crawling back. Elias felt something inside him harden. So it was true. Ralvek had already started the war without firing a single shot. No, Ralvek, Elias said, stepping even closer. We won't crawl. We'll fight. We'll stand until the last human breath is taken, if that's what you force us to do. Ralvek studied him for a long moment. Then he turned away, walking back toward the center platform. You speak of standing, Ralvek said softly, but you are alone here. Elias turned to leave. But before he reached the door, he stopped and looked back over his shoulder. You fear us, Elias said, and that fear will cost you more than you know. Without waiting for a reply, he walked out of the chamber. The guards watched him pass, but they didn't stop him this time. When Elias returned to his shuttle, Maya was waiting on the comm screen. She looked anxious. Well, she asked, what did he say? Elias sat down heavily in the pilot's seat. His face was dark. He didn't deny it. He's already started the blockades, Elias said. And worse, I think he's moving warships toward our borders. Maya's face paled. Do we fight now? Elias shook his head slowly. Not yet. Not until they fire the first shot. But we need to prepare. He looked out the shuttle window as the stars began to shift. The engines hummed softly as they pulled him away from the station. He knew the Council would not stop. And somewhere out there, Ralvek's ships were on the move. Elias had hoped for peace. Now, he feared the fight was coming whether he wanted it or not. Captain Elias Ward stood on the bridge of the Resolute, staring at the large viewing window. The stars ahead of him looked the same as always, bright, cold, distant. But Elias knew something had changed. The air itself felt heavier, tighter, like something was pressing down on everyone. Maya Chin stood by his side, her arms crossed. She had just returned from a meeting with the other senior officers. Her face showed the news wasn't good. They've started stopping our ships, she said quietly. 3 more turned back this morning. One hasn't checked in at all. Elias didn't look away from the stars. He already knew. He had felt it coming since the moment he walked out of the council chamber. What about the colonies? Elias asked. Growing restless, Maya replied. Some leaders want to strike first. They're calling it a show of strength. The defense fleet is on standby, waiting for your word. Elias let out a breath through his nose. He had expected this. Fear was spreading fast, not just through the council, but through his own people. Everyone was on edge, waiting for the other side to make the first move. Juno Hayes entered the bridge. She carried a datapad in one hand, her face hard as stone. New reports from the outer sectors, Juno announced. Council warships spotted near Titan's Reach and Vega Prime. No direct contact yet, but they're not hiding anymore. Elias turned to face her. Numbers? Too many, Juno replied. Enough to lock us down if we let them. The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what this meant. Maya broke the silence first. We can't just wait forever, Elias. Elias nodded slowly. He turned back to the window and thought about his next move. He had come here to stop a war. Now the war was breathing down their necks. He leaned on the edge of the command table and stared at the star map. We need the other races to see what Ralvek is doing, Elias said finally. Right now, he controls the story. He makes us look like the problem. We need to speak to the full council again. Maya's eyes widened. After what happened last time, they won't invite us, Juno added. They'll shut us out. Elias nodded again. That's why I'm not asking. Juno frowned. You're planning to override protocol? Elias reached for the console and began to type in an override code. Yes. Maya stepped closer. Elias, this could be seen as an attack. It's our last shot at peace, Elias replied. If they shut us out again, at least everyone will see we tried. Juno and Maya exchanged glances, but neither of them argued. The risk was high, but doing nothing was worse. Elias pressed the final command. The Resolute's long-range transmitters powered up, locking onto the Council's emergency broadcast channels. The signal couldn't be blocked. It would reach every delegate in the Union, including the ones Ralvek was keeping in the dark. Elias stepped in front of the holo camera. The red light blinked on. This is Captain Elias Ward of the Human Alliance, he began, his voice steady and clear. To all council members, this message is not for Ralvek. It is for you. He paused for a moment before continuing. You have not heard the truth. You have not been told what your leaders have already done. Your warships have moved toward our borders. Your fleets have blocked our trade. This is not balance. This is not peace. This is a slow act of war. The camera light blinked faster, showing the signal was being received across the Union. We do not seek war, Elias said. We seek only the right to stand free. We offer peace again if you end the blockades and pull back your ships. He leaned in closer to the camera, his voice firm but calm. We stand ready to defend ourselves, but we still believe in peace. The next move is yours. Elias ended the message. The crew stood in silence, waiting for a response. Minutes passed. Nothing came. Juno crossed her arms. Do you think anyone heard us? They heard, Elias replied softly. The question is, who will answer? Hours passed. Reports kept coming in. More ships. More blockades. No word from the council. Then, finally, a message arrived, not from Ralvek, but from a council member of the Kethri race. The Kethri were known for staying neutral. They rarely took sides. They rarely spoke at all. Maya read the message aloud. They request an open session. They want you to speak before the entire council one last time. Elias nodded. The time had come. He stood up from the command table and looked at his team. Prepare the shuttle, Elias ordered. We're going back to Zeta 9. Juno gave a small nod. Maya looked nervous but hopeful. As they turned to leave, Elias glanced once more at the star map. The council had moved its pieces. Now, it was his turn to make the final move for peace. The Resolute's shuttle approached the Galactic Union Station once again. This time, it was different. This time, Elias Ward had not been forced to sneak a meeting. The council had called for a full, open session. It was rare. It was risky, but was their last chance to stop what was coming. The shuttle docked, and Elias stepped out alone. His uniform was clean and sharp, his face calm, but his mind ready for storm. He knew the whole galaxy would be watching this moment. Maya's voice came through his earpiece before he reached the chamber. Are you sure about this, Captain? Elias stopped in the hallway and answered softly. No, but it's the right thing to do. He cut the line and walked toward the heavy chamber doors. They slid open slowly, revealing the largest gathering Elias had ever seen. Hundreds of council members were already seated. Voices echoed across the tall chamber walls. Some delegates leaned forward, eager to hear him speak. Others watched him with cold, untrusting eyes. At the center, as always, stood Ralvek. The High Speaker did not hide his anger. His jaw was tight, his eyes narrow. But today, Ralvek could not stop Elias from speaking. The Kethri had called for this session, and by law, the council had to listen. Elias walked to the center platform. The noise slowly faded. All eyes were on him now. Elias took a deep breath and began. Members of the council, he said, I stand here not as a soldier, but as a voice for my people. You all know what has happened. You have heard the lies, the fear, the warnings. I ask you now to hear the truth." He paused and let his words sink in. "You fear the strength of the human alliance. You fear what we have built. But what you do not see is that we have never attacked. We have never crossed your borders. We have never demanded anything from you." Some members nodded slowly. Others remained still. Elias took a step closer to the front. "Your warships sit at our borders. Your fleets block our trade. You choke our people without firing a shot. You call this peace. I call it what it really is: war without the courage to admit it." Murmurs spread across the chamber. Ralvek raised his staff and spoke loudly. "Captain Ward stands here to blame us. But he is the one who walked away from unity. He is the one who broke trust." Elias turned to face Ralvek. "We walked away because you refused to treat us as equals," Elias replied. "We walked away because your unity means control." Ralvek raised his voice even higher. "And what do you offer now? More words? More demands?" Elias stood tall and strong. "No demands. Only one offer." The chamber grew silent again. Elias looked around the hall, meeting the eyes of as many delegates as he could. "End the blockades. Pull back your ships. Let us stand as we are, free to lead our own path. We will not threaten you. We will not harm you. But if you keep pressing us, if you keep pushing us into a corner, you will leave us no choice but to defend ourselves." The words hung in the air like a heavy fog. Elias stepped back. "The choice is yours." Ralvek slammed his staff on the floor. "You will regret this offer." But before Ralvek could continue, the Kethri delegates stood. The room fell silent again. The Kethri were small, soft-voiced beings with glowing white eyes. They rarely spoke. When they did, the whole council listened. The Kethri's voice was calm, but firm. "The human speaks truth. We have seen the blockades. We have seen the warships. We do not support fear. We do not support control. We stand with the human alliance in calling for peace." The chamber erupted in voices, some in shock, some in support, some in anger. Ralvek slammed his staff again. "Enough. You would let them grow unchecked. You would risk everything we have built." But more delegates began to stand, one after another. A group from the Rim worlds stood with the Kethri. A few from the core systems stood as well. The council chamber was breaking apart. Lines were being drawn. Elias stood quietly, watching it all unfold. Maya's voice crackled in his ear. "They're listening," she whispered. "They're actually listening." Elias nodded slowly. For the first time, he felt something more than fear. He felt hope. But the fight was not over yet. Ralvek raised his staff one last time, his voice shaking with anger. "You may fool them today, human, but you cannot fool me. We are not finished." Elias met his gaze one last time. "No," he said softly. "We're just getting started." The council would vote soon. The future of peace or war hung in the balance. The council chamber remained in chaos after the open session. Delegates argued in every corner. Voices clashed across the hall like waves hitting rock. Elias Ward stood quietly on the central platform, watching the storm build around him. He had said all he could say. Now, the choice was in their hands. Maya Chin stood near the doorway, her face tense. She spoke into her communicator, updating the Resolute. Admiral Juno Hayes was standing by, waiting for word. Ralvek had disappeared into the private chambers behind the hall. Elias knew what that meant. The council would now meet in secret to vote. They would decide whether to end the blockades or prepare for war. Hours passed. Elias waited. He did not move. He did not speak. He just watched. Delegates came and went. Some glanced at him as they passed. Some ignored him completely. But a few, just a few, nodded in quiet support. Finally, the chamber doors opened again. Ralvek stepped out first, followed by the other council leaders. His face was dark and unreadable. The chamber quieted again as the council filed back into place. Ralvek stood on the central platform. He raised his staff slowly and spoke with cold, steady words. "The council has voted," Ralvek announced. "We have heard the humans' offer. We have heard the Kethri's voice. The council is divided." Murmurs filled the room again. Ralvek lifted his hand, and the room fell silent once more. But a decision has been made. Elias stood straighter, his heart pounding in his chest. Ralvek's voice dropped lower. The council rejects the use of force and calls for the end of the blockades. Gasps echoed across the chamber. Ralvek gripped his staff tighter. The fleets will be ordered to pull back from human space. The human alliance will be left to govern itself. Elias could hardly believe what he was hearing. Maya's voice crackled in his ear again, almost breathless. They actually did it. Ralvek's face showed no joy. He turned to Elias with cold eyes. This changes nothing between us, Ralvek warned. You will fall on your own, and when you do, we will not catch you. Elias stepped forward, keeping his voice calm and steady. Maybe, he replied, but at least we'll fall free. Ralvek turned away without another word. Delegates began to leave their seats. Some were smiling. Some looked angry. But the vote had been made. The decision was final. Maya rushed to Elias's side. We did it, she whispered. The blockades are ending. Elias nodded slowly, but his face stayed serious. Tell the Resolute to confirm the fleet withdrawals, he ordered. We don't move until we see them pull back for real. Maya tapped her communicator. Juno answered right away. We're watching the council fleets now, Juno reported. Stand by. Seconds passed. Then more. Elias felt his chest tighten. Finally, Juno's voice came through again. They're pulling back, she confirmed. Blockade ships are standing down. The trade routes are clear. Elias closed his eyes for just a moment. He felt the tension in his body begin to ease. They had done it. Peace had held, barely. Maya let out a breath of relief. Elias looked back toward the chamber. It was already starting to empty. Delegates from every corner of the galaxy were leaving, returning to their ships and their homeworlds. Some would celebrate. Some would plot their next move. But for now, the fight was over. As they walked toward the exit, Maya glanced at Elias. What now? Elias stopped for a moment in the doorway. He turned back and looked over the empty chamber one last time. Now, he said quietly, we watch. We prepare. And we hope they never forget what almost happened here. They stepped into the hallway, leaving the chamber behind. The doors closed with a soft hiss. And just like that, the galaxy began to breathe again. The Resolute drifted silently through open space. No blockades, no council warships, no threats. For the first time in weeks, the human alliance had clear space around their borders. Human trade ships were moving again. Supply lines were open. Civilian ships reported safe travels without interference. The crew of the Resolute watched the empty star charts with quiet relief. No signs of council ships. No signs of an attack. The council had pulled back. The blockades were over. But the mood on board was not joyful. It was cautious. Everyone knew the peace was thin, like glass ready to crack. Captain Elias Ward stood on the bridge, looking out at the stars. Maya Chun stood beside him, holding a data pad with the latest reports. All routes are clear, she said softly. Trade is moving again. Colonies are stable. Elias nodded, but said nothing. His mind was still working, thinking 3 steps ahead. The council had backed down, yes, but they had not changed their hearts. Especially not Ralvek. Maya lowered her voice. You don't trust it, do you? Elias finally spoke. It's too easy to break, he said. They voted to pull back, but that doesn't mean Ralvek has given up. He'll be waiting for us to make the next mistake. Juno Hayes entered the bridge, walking with her usual sharp steps. She crossed her arms and stood by the star map. I've checked all sectors, she reported. Council ships are holding back for now, but their fleets are still near the border. They didn't return to their home systems. They're watching us. Elias turned to face her. Let them watch, he said. We'll show them we're ready. Juno nodded. Fleet commanders are asking for orders. Should we stand down? Elias thought for a moment, then shook his head. No, keep our ships in position. No aggression, but full defense. If they move again, we respond. Maya gave a small smile. They thought we'd crawl back. Instead, we stood. Elias allowed himself a small smile in return. Yes, we did. Maya looked around the bridge, then lowered her voice again. Do you think it's really over? Elias walked toward the main window and stared into the stars. No, he said quietly. This was just the first fight. The council won't stop being afraid of us. Ralvek won't stop pushing. But today, we showed the galaxy something they can't ignore. Juno stepped closer. What's that? Elias turned back to face them both. That we won't be controlled, he said. We won't be broken. And we won't start a war just because they expect us to. Maya nodded slowly. Juno gave a rare, small smile. The bridge crew stood a little taller. Not because the danger was gone, but because they knew they had passed their first real test. Across the stars, leaders would talk. Plans would be made. But for now, humanity stood free. Elias took one last look at the stars, then turned away from the window. Set course for home, he ordered. We have work to do. The engines of the Resolute hummed to life. The stars shifted as the ship turned toward Earth. The fight for peace had only begun. But today, the human alliance had held their ground. The crew watched the stars stretch into long lines as the ship jumped to faster-than-light speed. Elias stood in the center of the bridge, calm and steady. He knew the future would not be easy. But for now, they had earned a fragile, precious thing: freedom.